NFL Sunday. Joe Musso alongside Ryan Wilson, here to bring you the highlights and reaction as games go final. First submission in the evening window belonging to the Giants and the Cardinals, and a crazy comeback capped by this. Graham Gano, don't you know, from 34 yards in a 28-all game. Uses all of that left side fairway, but splits the uprights. And what would be the eventual game winner? 31-28 your final. The Giants scoring 28 unanswered points to complete this comeback. 31 points in the second half after scoring 0 in their first 6 quarters of the season. In studio with NFL analyst Ryan Wilson. Ryan, I don't know if we can overstate, understate, or just react to what was, but how big was that final 30 minutes of this game for the Giants? Not just here, but for this season after being held scoreless through 6 quarters.
For the season, absolutely, because this was such a roller coaster, Musso. And it's one of those games where if you had just shown up after work today and looked at the score, you're like, oh, they won. Finally, they're back on track. But we were in a situation where it was 60-0 in terms of points scored against the Giants and points scored for the Giants. And they got it together in those final 30 minutes, as you mentioned. They paid Dan Jones. I like calling him Dan when he's more official over the final 30 minutes there. They paid him, and he sort of looked like that guy. Now, we'll see where Saquon Barkley is with what looked like a pretty serious injury there. Fingers crossed he's healthy. But they stepped up in the second half. They outplayed a not great Cardinals team, for being honest with ourselves, and it's a huge win in an incredibly competitive division, and they could not drop to 0-2.
I mean, you're talking about getting blanked through 6 quarters, and then you find 31 in the second half. Looked a lot more like the team we expected, as you said, but it also begs the question of who is this team? Probably somewhere between those two.
You know, it's funny, we talked about this, you as a Bears fan. The Bears don't seem to have life for any number of reasons. It was unclear why the Giants got off to such a slow start last week and that 40-0 blanking. At first, the offense couldn't do anything, and then early today in Arizona, the defense no-showed, and they finally figured it out. Brian Daboll must have given a pretty impassioned halftime speech, and everyone seemed to be on the same page. It's something you can build on. And like I said, they're 1-1 in the division now with games coming up this Thursday, short turnaround this week at San Francisco, and then Seattle and at Miami. We'll get to those games when they unfold in the coming weeks, but you could not get out of Arizona with a loss against a team that's been in the Caleb Williams conversation for over a month.
I don't appreciate you bringing me into this. I want that stated for the record. That was in the 1 p.m. window. That is in our rear view. We don't have to worry about it until
We're on to next week.
Some teams might have to worry about the Cardinals here. I mean, this is back-to-back weeks. Losses, yes, but a good game plan, well executed at times. They're going to be probably an in-the-way team, but maybe more in the way than we assumed. What have you made of them through 2 games?
So the concern was, why are you cutting Colt McCoy days before the season began? Why are you trading for Josh Dobbs, who does have a relationship with the offensive coordinator from their time together in Cleveland? Turns out they do have a plan. Now, we talked a lot this offseason about Shane Steichen, what he'd do in Indianapolis. Turns out Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator from that Eagle staff, he has a plan as well. Not as gregarious, perhaps, as some of your top-line coaches. He's not Mike Tomlin, for example. He's not Mike Vrabel. But he seems to be getting the most out of this team. They seem to be buying in, and they're doing it with a journeyman quarterback in Josh Dobbs, and you have to give them credit for that. Now, James Conner played today like he was one of the best players in NFL history, at least in the first half, and you have to build on those things, build around your pieces on offense. We saw Hollywood Brown have a touchdown, and those are things that you can go back and say, there are no moral victories in the NFL, of course, Joe, but you can go back and say, look, we are going in the right direction. We are building this franchise. We have 2 first-round picks next April. Let's keep this thing going, be an in-the-way team in a good way, and then figure things out a year or 2 down the line.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody in that locker room is playing with Caleb Williams in mind.
No.
Right now, the objective is something different for the Cardinals. Back on the Giants here for a moment. As we said, wishing the best for Saquon Barkley. We know he has torn an ACL in the past, got rolled up in an ugly fashion there late in this one as the Giants were driving to take that lead. I don't want to do the with or without Saquon thing, but who does this team have to be over these next couple weeks? You're looking at big-time matchups. You got the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, and the Bills straight ahead of you, and you got to be who you were in those final 30 minutes.
I mean, Daniel Jones obviously needs to continue to play better, and I think one of the things that has to happen, the offensive line has to improve. They have the 2 bookend offensive tackles, both first-round picks. We've seen Thomas come into his own. We need to see that from the right tackle. That has not been the case. And again, wherever Saquon Barkley's future is in the next few weeks, Daniel Jones is going to have to play like he's been paid to play. And then I'll go to the other side of the football. We've seen those rookie cornerbacks actually play pretty well. One of the few bright spots in the two games we've seen here. Defense came alive in the second half. We need to see them get after it more, pressure the quarterback more, use those players up front, Dex Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Azeez Ojulari, to create pressure on the quarterback.
It ain't easy winning in this league. So enjoy him when you get him, Giants. All right, Allen, 31 of 37 for 274 in this winning effort. Here he is through 2 weeks. A couple things stood out there. Said he wanted to be decisive and be himself. Be yourself, but keep it clean, huh, 17? Back in studio to break this one down with Ryan Wilson. Ryan, there were concerns coming out of that Monday nighter, 4 giveaways for Josh Allen. I think that's an understatement. Here, as you said, early in this game, there were moments of unsettled play by Allen, looking a little frantic at times. Where did you see him settle in and still be himself, the playmaker that he is, but also protect the football? Yeah, and you sort of got the sense when Melanie was talking to him on the sidelines after the game there that he knew what happened last week. He understood that he was a quarterback who has 41 turnovers the last 3 seasons, had no turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles this game, and that's the takeaway. Do exactly what Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, calls, and he mentioned that to Melanie as well. Take what's in front of you, dink and dunk your way down the field if you need to. Lean on Steph Diggs, lean on Gabe Davis, lean on your rookie Dalton Kincaid, and let your defense do their job. They had 2 interceptions against Jimmy G, and I think you feel pretty good about that. Home win, everything's back to normal. You can dink and dunk your way to 38 points. A lot of franchises across the NFL would take that sort of dinking and dunking. Most games with 80% completion percentage, 3 passing touchdowns, and a clean ledger. Josh Allen, despite all the giveaway deja vu all over again here for the Chargers. You score 25-plus points. Defense can't get the stops. Herbert finds Keenan Allen. You start getting that connection going, and still, they can't get to the win column. What is the biggest issue right now? I'll ask this question, and it could be rhetorical if you don't know the answer. I think you do. What is Brandon Staley's specialty? Game management. Should be defense, right? He came over for the Rams as a defensive coordinator, and we have seen 0 defense. They hired Kellen Moore as the new OC, and that offense has actually been working. We've seen Justin Herbert cook, and the question becomes, we thought Brandon Staley was going to be in the hot seat earlier this year. He survived, and now the clock is ticking, and the clock has flames underneath it because you get concerned when you're 0-2 in this situation against a Titans team, as you talked about, that wasn't very good over the last 8 games. Yes, the Dolphins look to be red hot, but they should have beaten Miami at home last week. So the questions are going to mount, and they're going to start with Brandon Staley and that defense where you have Khalil Mack, Nick Bosa, and you're not making the plays that you need to make to win these football games. Game management said in jest, of course. Timeouts, we'll have to take a look at how they were managed in this game. But in the end, it's the Chargers scoring a whole bunch of points and the Chargers losing a football game. On the Titans side of this one, we're starting to, I know we're only 2 weeks in, but we're starting to identify realistic goals for teams. What is realistic for this team? Because they do seem one-dimensional at times, and then Ryan Tannehill rips one downfield and makes you eat your words. We looked at his stat line after the game. We both laughed because, wait a second, didn't this guy throw 8 interceptions? He had 3 picks last week, and he looked cooked, as the kids say. I say that all the time. My 12-year-old says no one says that. But either way, he looked like a completely different player today, and game management is his go-to. He is the Brandon Staley of quarterbacks when he's hitting it. And look, we didn't see Derrick Henry get over 100 yards. It didn't matter. The defense got after it. We saw Simmons ball out in the middle of that defense, and then game management, dink and dunk your way down the field. And we saw a couple of deep balls from Tannehill that was good as well. And when you play in that division, there is always a chance. And it seems like Mike Vrabel is a better coach than people for some reason give him credit for in every year.
Chào mừng mọi người đã đến với kênh YouTube của em ngày hôm nay. Và